Hey everyone, it's Jeremy here, back with another watch review. This time we have the Casio AMW 320. This one is really a cult classic, and the first time I saw this one was on Arnold Schwarzenegger's wrist in Kindergarten Cop. Of course, I didn't realize it at that time. I wasn't looking at watches at that time. But this it's really a cult classic. It's got a full solid stainless steel case. It's got a really nice bidirectional rotating bezel, and it's rounded enough that it doesn't get bumped by accident, but it still has a really nice smooth action when you do rotate it. Let's go through the digital modes here real quick. Zoom in here so you can see that little display at the bottom. So I usually keep it on the calendar mode here, so day, date, and a month all in one. This is a good complement to the time of day. So this is like a full perpetual calendar. Then you've got the alarm time there. Your dual time. This is your second time zone. It's not a full, GMT or world time. It's just a dual time. You just pick a time and you set it. And you got the stopwatch, the digital time in case you want that, and then back to the calendar. This was if you had a watch with alarm chrono on the digital, that was a big deal in the 80s and maybe early 90s, so they're sure to print that in red on the display. You can see it's rated 100 meters. It doesn't have a screw down crown, so that's about the most water resistance you can have without a screw down crown, I think. The button action, let's talk about that real quick. It's kind of springy because the movement is a little smaller. It's right in the middle, and it's got some plastic springs inside, but they're actually very durable. It feels a lot more durable than most digital watches. So we've got the mode button on the upper left, the set button on the lower left, and then the crown for setting the analog movement on the right. It's set separately from the digital one, so if it's going to drive you nuts that they're never quite in sync, you might just want to keep looking. But I thought it would bother me at first, but it doesn't anymore. Let's talk about the bezel for a little bit. This is one of the strongest features of this watch. You've got the stopwatch if you want the precise timing, which sometimes you're not sure if you're going to remember to turn off the stopwatch or whatever, so you can just rotate this so that the gold north arrow is at the minute's hand there, and then the next time you look up, the minute hand will be pointing to somewhere on this fully marked bezel. It also has the compass bearings in real small print. It's almost as if Casio knows that that's a useless feature, and they were smart enough to make the timing bezel bigger. And I really like that it's bidirectional. It's just so handy. Sometimes you just need to go, 5 minutes to the right. You don't have to crank it all the way around. It doesn't get bumped, and it's just a really great action on bezel action on a watch under $100, and it actually beats a lot of proper diving bezels. This is miles better than the Orient Mako and the Orient Ray, for example. It's got enough purchase for your fingers where you can actually get a hold of it, but it doesn't get bumped easily. So it's not too tight, not too loose, just really great bezel action. Having a two-button interface does take a little bit of getting used to. You got to alternate buttons a lot. So for example, if I want to set the alarm time, this is the mode button up here on the upper left. So I hold down the set button, and now if I hit the set button again, it'll go to the next digit. I don't want to do that, so then I go back to the mode button to change the alarm time. Hit set to go to the next digit, mode to set. And this is kind of nice where you can set tens of minutes individually, right? And you don't have to scroll through all 59 minutes. You only have to scroll through about 6 of them. So this is going to be 12:25 p.m. And then finally at the right there, you can see the, let's see if I'm gonna get a little tighter shot here. That's about as close as this camera will focus. So you got off, alarm on, hourly chime on, both of them on, back to off again. Set again to lock it in, mode to go to the next mode. So you get used to that. It's not quite as easy as the pure digital Casios that have 4, 5, or 6 buttons, or even 3. But remember, this is an Ana-Digi, and they wanted to keep it clean. So we got analog control on this side, digital control on this side. Zoom back a little bit here. Now the loom, you'll see that the hands are loomed and the dial markers are loomed. I'll just come right out and say it. The loom on the hands is very good. It's better than the loom on a basic Seiko diver. Probably right up there with a Seiko Monster, at least for the hands. But the dial loom is kind of pitiful. You can see that for maybe half an hour after the lights go out, but you can see the hands all night long easily. So that's worth noting. And it's kind of important too, because it doesn't have any kind of a light. It comes on a rubber diving strap, which is actually a really good quality strap, but I opted to go for the leather, just a basic black calfskin leather band, and kind of dress it up a little bit. And Casio does make a really good quality bracelet for this. It's not a solid link bracelet. It is folded, but it's executed very well. It's much better executed than, for example, a cheap folded Seiko or folded Orient or folded Citizen bracelet. It's folded such that it doesn't pull your arm hairs. So I think that's about a $50 or $60 option if you buy it online. A lot of guys think it's worth it. I always find the leather strap to be more comfortable. Let's see what else. I mentioned that the case is solid stainless steel. You can see it's polished on the side here and brushed on the front around the bezel. Zoom in and get a little closer on that. And then this is kind of a satin finish, kind of a bead blasted finish on the timing bezel. Back of the case is, of course, brushed. Zoom out a little bit, it's a little crazy close. It's brushed so it doesn't stick to your wrist. It's got a little splashing water graphic on there. It tells you the module number, the model number of the watch, AMW 320R, stainless steel, Japan movement, water resistant 10 bar. Yeah, cased in China, Japan movement. And I'll have to look up the the case diameter, but I think it's about 44 millimeters. Normally this would be much too big for my small 6 3/4 inch wrist, but Casio just has a great way of making big watches wearable. I just finished another video on the PRW 3000, and that one is also. It's a pretty big watch for my small wrist, but they both managed to fit really well, and I thought it was because of the winglets on the PRWs and on the G-Shocks, but this one's got no such gimmicks, but it still fits pretty well. So let's see. Another thing that's worth noting, it's got a mineral crystal, so that's a step up from the acrylic crystals that they usually provide, but you can see that it stands a little bit proud of the bezel. Let's see if I can get the right angle here. So if you hit it with a glancing blow, you'll probably on something hard like metal latch frame, latch plate on a door, something like that, you'll probably scratch it. So I want to be careful there. It would have been better if they made the bezel stand a little bit proud of the crystal instead of vice versa. That would make the mineral crystal a lot more doable. It's been a very popular watch for Casio over the years. So they have a lot of variants. You can see this one has like kind kind of the Submariner inspired marker shapes, where you have triangles at the cardinal points and then circles at the less dominant points. But they also make one with big, kind of longer rectangular markers, and that's kind of nice because the hands are necessarily a little bit short, because if they made that minute hand reach down as far as it should, then it would cover up a big chunk of the LCD. So they make the hands a little bit short, and to compensate for that, the other models with the different suffixes have a longer rectangular markers, and that kind of helps a little bit. And this one with the round markers, I believe you can get in black also, and then with the rectangular markers you can get blue and black, and then you can get one with the PVD finish case instead of a stainless case. They have lots of variants, and just with the same old basic movement, but just a really good quality watch for less than $70, even on the strap. Oh yeah, and then I mentioned the bracelet before. You can get the blue one, I think, on a bracelet. You can buy the bracelet separately if you want it. The gold, I like the gold just because not only that it has the movie tie-in, but it's just kind of, it looks kind of nice, but without being over the top like a gold case and bracelet would be, you know. Battery life is about 2 years. I changed the battery in this one once. It can be a little tricky. You have to have your case back opener, hopefully a 3-prong one, so that you can hold it, keep it flat. It screws in, and then when you take it out, there's a plastic movement spacer that surrounds the movement, and it has 2 or 3 little gold springs that come through just specific little holes in that movement, and they have to make contact, electrical contact with the back, or else something's not going to work right. For example, if you smush one of them down instead of having it come through the hole, then the watch won't beep. If you have another one that doesn't make contact, then the movement won't work. So you have to make sure you notice that when you change the battery. But once you're aware of that and you see how the movement spacer has integrated springs for the buttons, just notice how everything goes together when you take the back off before you take that movement spacer out, and then it's not a big deal. So 2-year battery life. I mentioned before it's got no light. Casio does have some Anadigi watches that do have a backlight, but it's, as of right now, January 5th, 2015, it's hard to find one that has a light for the whole display. You find that their analog digitals have a light for the LCD, so that when it's getting into nighttime, if you change it to the time of day mode on the LCD, then you can use the light to light that up. But it would be nice if they had more of them where they had like kind of a bright LCD that lit the whole analog dial, and then another LED to light the LCD display. Anyway, in short, this is a cult classic, and rightfully so. It's just very good fit and finish, very good quality. It's got some weight to it. It's got, you have all the digital functionality, but you still have the analog timekeeping. It's kind of nice. You take this for granted after a while, but for example, if I'm in the stopwatch mode and I'm timing something, I don't have to worry about going back to the time screen to see the time, because the time is always there. The time is always the dominant thing on this watch. So just a really nice watch. I highly recommend this, the AMW 320. It's a lot nicer than you would think it is when you think Casio. A lot of us think of those as just cheap functional digital watches, because that's kind of how they made their name in the 80s. But now they're making some higher end stuff. The high end G-Shocks are nice. The Pro Trek, which I just showed you briefly, are super nice, and they have some higher end stuff like the Edifice line and the Oceanus line and so forth, but always really good quality stuff from Casio. It's just a matter of whether you like the feature set and the aesthetics. And before we go, I'll show you what it looks like on my small wrist. I've got a 6 3/4 inch wrist, and this is like a 44 millimeter watch. You can see I had to drill an extra hole there. There you have it. Zoom in a little bit. Not too much. So, covers the whole top of my wrist. If you have bigger wrists, it'll wear fine. If you have much smaller than 6 3/4, 6.5 inch wrist, it's probably going to be too big for you. But it fits me pretty well, and I always enjoy wearing it. I enjoy that well damped, clicky, bidirectional bezel. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I give this one a big thumbs up. Just a great value.